On August 12, 2025, Chattanooga, Tennessee, experienced its second wettest day in history, with 6.42 inches of rain falling in less than 24 hours. Streets turned into rivers, highways were shut down, dozens of swiftwater rescues were carried out, and entire communities were cut off, marking a day that brought much of southeastern Tennessee and northwestern Georgia to a standstill. This is the complete chronology of an event that tested emergency response teams and exposed the region's vulnerability to extreme rainfall. On August 12, 2025, Chattanooga and surrounding areas recorded one of the heaviest rainfall events in their history, with 6.42 inches measured at Chattanooga Metropolitan Airport, making it the second wettest day on record, surpassed only by the 9.49 inches recorded in September 2011. And pay attention, what happened next put the entire region on high alert. The rain began in the early morning hours and persisted for hours, following tropical-style precipitation patterns that dumped intense volumes of water over the same areas, quickly saturating the ground and overwhelming storm drains, creeks, and small waterways. As the downpour continued, streets in several parts of the city, including Brainerd, East Ridge, and Collegedale, turned into rushing streams that made both vehicle and pedestrian travel impossible. At this point, it was no longer just puddles or localized flooding. It was actual rivers running through entire neighborhoods. Low-lying areas filled quickly, trapping drivers and residents. Swiftwater rescue teams were deployed in multiple locations to respond to emergencies where people were trapped in vehicles, homes, and apartment complexes. Among the hardest hit areas was the stretch of Interstate 24 between Belvoir Avenue and Spring Creek Road, as well as the I-75 interchange, which had to be closed in both directions due to deep water, cutting off key transportation corridors and forcing detours that created heavy congestion across the Tennessee Valley. The picture was clear. Major roads completely submerged and vehicles abandoned in the middle of the current. Other major roads, including Amnicola Highway and Germantown Road, were also affected by significant flooding. In Georgia, nearby Catoosa and Walker counties reported severe impacts, with more than a dozen roads closed and rescues carried out at apartment complexes such as the Crossings and Fountain Brooks in Fort Oglethorpe, where over 100 people were evacuated without injuries. This meant the emergency was no longer confined to Tennessee. The problem had spread to another state within hours. The Brainerd Recreation Center, located on North Moore Road, was opened as a temporary shelter and operations hub for emergency coordination, providing assistance to displaced families. The Hamilton County Office of Emergency Management declared a local state of emergency shortly before 10 p.m., allowing for faster mobilization of resources and coordination among local, state, and federal agencies. The message from authorities was clear: stay off the roads and remain in safe locations. Throughout the afternoon and night, rescue services responded to dozens of calls, working in waist-deep water or against fast-moving currents carrying debris. The National Weather Service maintained flash flood warnings for Hamilton, Bradley, and Catoosa counties late into the night, warning of the possibility of additional rainfall due to persistent atmospheric instability. In other words, even while water still covered the streets, the forecast offered no relief. By the morning of August 13th, some areas began to see water levels recede, but several streets remained impassable, and cleanup operations began, including the removal of mud, debris, and objects carried by the floodwaters. Authorities warned about the risk of water contamination and advised avoiding direct contact with flood-affected areas. The danger was not over. The aftermath of the flooding could be as serious as the event itself. Urban infrastructure, including underpasses and small bridges, suffered significant damage. Initial assessments indicated that several structures would require repairs that could take months to complete. Power outages occurred in scattered locations, and utility companies worked quickly to restore service. Hamilton County Public Schools canceled classes on August 13th, while some private schools delayed opening by 2 hours to allow for inspections and safety checks. The daily lives of thousands of people had been completely disrupted. Meteorologists warned that, due to saturated ground and elevated river and stream levels, even moderate rainfall in the days ahead could trigger renewed flooding in the most vulnerable areas. State damage assessment teams began surveying homes, businesses, and public infrastructure. The scale of the event, both in Tennessee and in northwestern Georgia, left widespread impacts, with millions of dollars in property losses and a massive mobilization of emergency resources, although no fatalities have been officially reported at the time. An event that will undoubtedly be remembered as one of the most significant floods in the region's recent history.